Everyone, welcome to our Munch and Learn today. We will hear from LNER in just a second. I do have to say, just before we start, that we have two events for your calendars. One is actually in a few hours' time. We're having a networking meetup in Soho in central London, if you're around from 6 o'clock. And we, on the 8th of June, are having a presentation from RIA's innovation team about their innovation navigator. So sign up to that online. But without further ado, I shall hand across to Ross, who's been waiting patiently.
Thank you very much, Liam. And thank you for asking me or inviting me to come and speak today. I think it's really interesting to hear all of the various different sort of companies and as you introduce yourself there and the variety, I think, in what you do and what you specialize in as well, I think is really, really interesting. Very keen to learn more and you know, I think hopefully work together in the future. I think that's the main aim, right? We want to do stuff, you guys want to do stuff, let's do stuff. But hopefully we'll get onto that in a minute. So I have got a slide to show, I'm afraid to say. Or maybe that's a good thing, you don't have to look at my face. So let me just share my screen quickly, hopefully.
You have a beautiful face, Ross. I'll look at it all day long.
Thanks, Marcus. I can always rely on you for moral support. Let me, what's going on here? You can see the screen, right?
We can see everything. So if you want to press that button there.
I will.
Yeah.
Press that button. There we go. Aha, that makes more sense. Now it's come with the one on the other side. So I am Ross Wellham. I lead the research and innovation team at London North Eastern Railway. We are a fairly small team, but I think that's also quite unique in terms of the rail industry, that we are a team. So it's myself, I have 2 innovation managers and an innovation product owner. We also have a solutions architect as well, who sort of is a dotted line into us, but and so he's very much focused on, you know, helping us to design and create the right solutions that then fit in with the rest of the digital infrastructure and architecture that we have at LNER. So it's I think it for me, it shows a couple of things. It shows one, that there's real impetus and sort of investment going on in research and innovation in the rail industry, and I think LNER, along with some of my other top counterparts, are sort of leading the charge on that, and we have a really good endorsement from the government. As many of you, I'm sure, know, that LNER is a state-owned franchise, so we sit under the DOHL board, and they have a real interest in what we're doing in the innovation space. Secondly, I'm pretty sure we are the only train operator that has a dedicated digital and innovation directorate. So that's where me and my team sit, and we have a chief innovation officer in Danny Gonzalez, and within that directorate, which is an ever-growing directorate of around 55, 60 people now, we are, you know, pushing the boundaries, hopefully, and creating the right kind of disruption to rail, which I think is which is always good to hear. And actually, there was a press piece that came out in the Independent the other day on our Smart Save ticketing feature, which is basically split ticketing, but you keep your seat reservation, which is not always the case if you to do that via the likes of Trainline. And actually, you know, it's a really interesting, simple, but you know, impactful piece of development that the digital innovation team have done. And that kind of leads me into what we do. and whilst you can say that kind of thing is potentially innovation, actually, what the innovation team have the luxury of being able to do is to really push the boundaries of what is possible. We really want to be thinking outside of the box, not looking at sort of incremental benefits or incremental innovations. What's really out there, what are people not doing at the moment? What are people not even thinking about at the moment? So this is kind of where we sit as a team, really to sort of strive to that, really ambitious sort of project types is where we want to play. So I guess just talk you through this slide. I think everyone kind of knows a lot about this, but what our innovation team does, it is really based around is quickly proving value of technologies. So that's what we have the luxury of being able to rapidly prototype and develop proof of concepts, and we look to try and turn those around quite quickly. We want to act like a startup. That's kind of how we see ourselves actually. We want to be able to iterate and pivot quickly, and also fail, but take on all of those learnings. The other aspect of us, of the team, really is creating that culture within LNER and the rest of the rail industry. We want to be able to create not just really interesting, impactful projects and look at technologies and innovations, but actually how do we then that generate excitement and interest, but actually how do we then instill and cultivate that culture within our own business, so that everyone, from senior executives and board members down to station staff and onboard staff, train drivers and other various departments, HR, finance, all of that, we want to be instilling that innovation culture across the whole business. And we do that by sort of disseminating insightful articles. We'll create content that we can share across the business, and really start engaging people. We also have what we call our digital ambassadors, which is around 75, 80 frontline members of staff who have a keen interest in technology. And we work with them quite regularly to bring them along the journey with us. They have a wealth of knowledge that we don't have ourselves, because they live it, they breathe it. They know the problems better than anyone, but having them on board in projects as well is really important, really helpful, and we really exploit that opportunity that we have. And then failure, I mentioned it a couple of times now. We're not afraid to fail. It's something so I joined LNER in August last year, and it's now I think has quite quickly become a sort of mantra across certainly the Digital and Innovation Directorate, is that don't be afraid to fail. Failure is not a bad thing, and you learn a lot from failing, actually. And as long as you learn something, it's not been all bad. So I think just quickly touch on this slide, actually, and I've kind of spoken about it a little bit as well, but it's around our sort of strategy and what we do. So I don't know if anyone's come across the McKinsey 3 Horizon model, but this is how we sort of structure our portfolio of innovations, I guess. So Horizon 1 is what the rest of the Digital Innovation Directorate kind of look at, maybe delving into some Horizon 2 stuff. Whereas we look at Horizon 2, Horizon 3, and like I say, that gives us the gives us the liberty to be able to look at stuff that might not necessarily come into the rail industry ever, or might come in 5 to 10 years time, but we're looking at that now. We're investigating it, we're potentially running proof of concepts around it. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a live environment, but we can test it in a lab, we can test it in a safe, secure type of environment that's not going to create unnecessary impacts. And that's kind of, yeah, hopefully this slide sort of captures that a little bit better and brings that to life a bit, and just sort of shows you that actually LNER are very keen to play in this real future space as well. And it's a huge objective of ours, is to have that good blend between Horizon 2 and Horizon 3 projects. So a little bit about how we do it. So this is what we call the LNER digital blueprints, and it was actually a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic. Actually, I think these were created. So it's before my time, but they're still really, really interesting, really valid. And so basically we wanted to try and get under the skin of our customers and create a vision, imagining what the world might look like in 5 to 10 years behind, thinking way beyond current day-to-day operations. And what we realized is we needed to, understand what the different customer personas are like, what the various journey stages look like. So along the top of this is what we call the ideal customer experience. So ideation and realization, booking, preparing to travel, journey to the station, being in the station, getting on board the train and settling in, the journey on board, all the way through to actually experience recovery and keeping in touch. That's the, there's various touch points that a customer experiences, and we have this for our own people as well. We have an ideal people experience. So because we also look at what technologies can improve our people and help them, but also obviously our key focus is around customers and passengers. And across this, we have potential future trends. We look at various pain points in particular, and we use those personas to bring all of that to life and make it real. So these are really, really quite valuable assets that we have, that we use quite a lot in determining what sits on our innovation backlog and how we should prioritize those as well. However, that being said, I think everyone's been probably historically as well guilty of innovating for innovation's sake, and we've often had solutions that then look to identify a problem, which isn't the right way around to do things. So which creates challenges, but these are the things I think we've learned. That way of looking at things creates this challenge ownership, because you're coming to someone with a problem or a solution to a problem that they either don't think they have or didn't know they had, and therefore it's not a priority for them because they're tackling things that they know and they perceive to have the most value. So it's being able to convey that message that actually this is a bigger problem and will have greater value to you often is quite difficult. So we have a set of business priorities. So it's all about making sure that we're designing solutions with the business owner in mind and bringing them on the journey as well. The rail industry is inherently complex, as you can look at it from from a systems perspective, but then when you put those systems together, you start to create this ecosystem of complexity, and you know, there's complicated and there's complex, and we're definitely in the complex side of things. Unfortunately, it's not always been startup friendly. I think we're definitely we're definitely moving towards being able to work with startups a lot quicker, and I'll get on to how we do that in a moment. But you know, giving startups a 40-page contract is not the right thing to do. We need to be better at working, you know, proportionally to the size of the businesses that we want to work with. And you know, we work with very closely with our procurement and information security teams to make sure that, you know, when we do find businesses that we want to work with, we can actually incubate them and work with them much more closely to get them to a place where we can work with them. You know, if there's sort of ISO compliance type stuff that needs to happen, we can do that, and we can work very closely with the companies to do that. And then scaling rapidly, you know, moving from a successful POC to a full-scale MVP and rollout, you know, needs to be quicker, needs to be easier, and it's not necessarily the case. But again, that's where the innovation team comes in. We're there to very quickly prove the value of technologies, and we can do that by running small-scale POCs to do that. And as long as we answer the right exam questions when we do that, then we can prove the value and make a business case or whatever type of investment case that needs to be made for future and further investment or further development if that's required. So let's see if that's going to go. There we go. I bung this slide in. I won't bore you with it, but it's, I'm sure most of you know design thinking, but that is the thing that we live and breathe in the innovation team. You know, we definitely so design thinking, agile. You know, that is, like I said, we act like a small scale up startup type function within LNER, disrupting, which is really good. It's not definitely a good thing to do. But yeah, I guess, and you know, the last point on here, handover, I think that's one of the key parts, actually, believe it or not. You know, building and testing stuff is obviously really important, and but the handover stuff is equally important. We can, if we want to have success in the innovation team, and we want our suppliers that we work with to have success, we need to make sure that that handover is successful, and you know, the future business owners are completely bought in and have that from day one. So this is we recently had a like I say recently, I think it was back in March, but we had a bit of an innovation showcase to a bunch of sort of senior stakeholders across government and the rail industry, and we put together these documents around some of the things that we've done, and Mike, you'll see that Quantum sits there on the bottom left hand side, which is, you know, the decision support tool that Junction have worked with us on. But we've done things like we've developed a digital avatar, so using that sat in Newcastle Station for around 3 or 4 months. We've run various wayfinding proof of concepts, and we're looking to do more in that space because we know it's a huge problem, especially with some of the complex stations that we have. We're running a project at the moment that helps with boarding and alighting of passengers through digital coach post marker boards that will be dynamically updated depending on what services are running. We've delivered virtual reality training with haptic feedback gloves. So that was within 5 weeks we designed and delivered a full proof of concept with that, and a supplier is now contracted with us to do 3 more use cases for virtual reality training. Obviously, I've mentioned that the quantum decision support tool. We've delivered eTVMs, so it's taking the traditional big grey box and putting it in what is effectively a giant iPhone, and you can get tickets directly to your mobile device straight from that screen. Wi-Fi edge casting. So this is you'll hear it here first, almost. We're now live with 3 trains providing streaming content that delivers pre-cached content. So there's no buffering, there's absolutely nothing whatsoever, and the experience that a user will have is all about going, taking their device, using their logins, so they can pick up exactly where they left off from when they were at home, and there's no using their own data and no connectivity issues either. And then the final thing is FutureLabs. So we've run 2 FutureLab programs so far, and we are about to embark on our 3rd. So, and that's what I was going to talk to you about today. But I did want to give you a bit of wasn't that brief, but it was a good, I think, overview of the innovation team in LNER, the journey that we're on, and we're still on that journey, but actually, I think we are certainly, in a really good position to work very, very closely with companies such as yourselves and innovative startups to really drive, improve, and test value for everyone, really. And we want to, like I said, we want to do stuff. You guys want to do stuff, so let's do stuff. So how can you get involved? I don't know if this will work for you, but hopefully it should. We have an online form that's live at the moment. Well, we have 2 actually. One's for first of a kind, but this one is more around our sort of general challenges. And I will go through the challenges in a moment, but they're all on there. And so if you do feel like you have a product or you want to test something, if you even if it's not quite there yet, we can do some development work with you as well, that covers some of those topics that are, again, they're on this form, but please, I'll go through them as well. Do get in touch, let us know, and we can set something up and discuss further, because like I say, we're very keen to do stuff. So FutureLabs. So for us, FutureLabs is a really, really exciting time, actually. It's like our flagship innovation program. It's a 12-week accelerator program that takes at least 6 startup companies, or scale-up companies. It doesn't have to be startups. It can be, as long as you've got a good product, a good idea, and it's sort of ticking boxes for LNER, you've got a very good chance of becoming part of the cohort. I think what what's really great about the program is that it really helps us actually learn. It helps the business think differently, and because we run the thing with the accelerator programs is we run them over such a time constrained period, is the impetus within the business just suddenly appears, and it's fascinating to see, but it's brilliant, at the same time. I think, if we could just, it's slow, but it's we are getting there in terms of, making that the culture, and that's the behavior throughout the year, but certainly during the 12 weeks, it certainly seems to be an amazing experience. So yeah, that's kind of the three key objectives really, and obviously we want to make sure that we create those connections with the suppliers that are out there, and that are either working in rail or want to work in rail, or feel like they can't work in rail because of reasons X, Y, and Z. Actually, this is another opportunity to prove that perception wrong. I think, unfortunately, it is a bit of a perception for many companies, and certainly the innovation team at LNER are not in a space where, just because you've not done something in rail before, actually, probably the inverse. The fact that you've not worked in rail before means that you'll be a good supplier to work with, because you'll be disrupting something else, and that's what we want to be doing. That's what we want to be seen doing as well. This is just some of the stuff that we've done before. So it's like I said, we've done a few projects. We've done created a full end-to-end mobile app that provides door-to-door journeys. We've done VR training. We've done augmented reality wayfinding, and so these were some of the themes that we've previously done. However, this year, for this year's themes, we have a number of challenge themes that we want to tackle, and these are all the ones that are covered in that form. So I'll just go through them in a bit more detail as well, and then that'll be me done, and we can do some questions and answers and stuff. So I guess first one, sustainable railway. Obviously it's an area that everyone's very interested in. It will provide a lot of impact, a lot of benefits, and we have a whole host of sustainability targets, one of which is to deliver 2 net zero stations by 2025. So that's going to be a really huge target for us to try and meet, and to be honest, I think they're going to need a hell of a lot of innovation to achieve it. Hopefully you can't hear the dog barking in the background. You probably can. A resilient railway, planned and unplanned disruption. We know some disruption we know about, a lot of disruption we don't, and it often provides. It is the key driver for dissatisfaction across the business and in passengers. And this one is much around creating operational resilience. So actually, there's a lot of overlap here in if any of you are familiar with the First of a Kind this year, theme 3. There's a lot in there that sort of overlaps with what we've got in terms of challenge statements. Smarter ways of working. we're always keen, like I say, we don't just innovate for our passengers, we innovate for our people too. So how can we make the best use of our people and their time and what they do, and make their lives easier or more effective. And safe and secure railway. Unfortunately, the rail industry is an environment which creates things that we don't want to see. And so how can LNER and the rail industry in general are leading this, a lot of this, but LNER are very keen to see if there's any innovations out there that can support making our rail industry a safer place, in particular, in our stations and on our trains. And then, so that's 4, and then there's another 4. Which interesting is family-friendly journeys. I think we're seeing a huge influx, particularly LNER, and probably other long-distance talks are as well, but seeing a huge influx in leisure travellers, and they are, I think, last time I heard, we were at 120% of pre-COVID levels for leisure passengers. So that just sort of tells you, actually, regardless of the pandemic or not, more people are traveling by rail for their holidays. So how can we enhance the experiences around for those types of passengers? Similar is providing those seamless journey experiences. So how can you create a journey that you don't notice any inconvenience with? When things are convenient, they are just, you forget very quickly the inconvenience that you used to put up with. If you just think at how much Amazon has changed the shopping experience online, imagine going back to how things were with that. It's just wouldn't happen. New revenue opportunities, as you probably also may be aware, one of the challenges set to the whole industry at the moment is around reducing costs and creating more revenue, which is always a bit of a sort of conundrum in itself. But innovation is got to be the answer for that. And we're always keen to identify new opportunities where we can generate revenue, and that's kind of outside of ticketing and fare box revenue. What other ancillary revenue opportunities might there be for us? So is that using our existing assets, because we have a lot of open space, we have a lot of buildings and infrastructure. How can we best use that to generate revenue? And then finally, the last one really is around exploring future technology. Like I said, this kind of goes back to that Horizon 3 stuff. We're really interested in what the future could hold for the rail industry, and we want to be the ones to test it out, prove it, fail with it. We don't care. We just want to be doing stuff in this space. And so we're just, so if there's any, so if you have any sort of truly state-of-the-art emerging technologies that you think have a use case for rail, this is the theme for you, kind of thing. We want to know about it. We want to understand what you think the use case might be and what the value could be. And that's it. That's everything I wanted to mention. My email is up there. You've also got the form, so please do get in touch. Reach out. We can set up a discussion. Like I said, I've got we have a team, so we should be able to do stuff pretty swiftly. And it's always our, it's our hope is that we can do things quick. Again, acting like a startup doesn't mean 3-month procurement times. That's just not how it works, and we have those conversations, or I have those conversations with our procurement manager quite regularly. So it's all good fun, but we are challenging. We are pushing the business in a very good way, but we want to work with the likes of yourselves to make sure that we can push them, and when we push them and win, in terms of what I mean by win, I mean prove value and impact. It just makes the case for those changes even greater. So thank you very much. Yeah, that's everything. I will open the floor to questions. Liam, if you want to say something, please do.
I was mainly going to say, I think people will be very encouraged to hear you focusing on procurement, because it's obviously an issue that many small companies deal with and continue to deal with. So yes, any help with that would be good. Can I ask you to unshare your screen so that I can get everyone back on the gallery? Yes. And Liz has her hand up, so let's go to Liz.
Hi, Ross.
Hello.
What's the time commitment of the accelerator?
It's 12 weeks.
I mean, on a week-to-week basis, or is it?
So that it'd be fairly intensive. It would be fairly intensive. So we tend to run a number of sessions each week, and they'll be led by our sort of innovation agency that we use to support the program. But yeah, it is fairly intensive. It is accelerator programs are sort of designed to be that way. It's not just the sessions that we run, it's then the work that has to be done by yourselves during it. We want to first few weeks are all about sort of designing and scoping the proof of concept, and really getting to the heart of the problem, and then the latter stages are actually testing. Can you put something out there, test it? You want to give yourself a week, 2 weeks maybe to collect data, then you want to analyze it. So when you start to think about it, 12 weeks soon gets eaten away. It used to be 10 weeks. I added another 2 weeks this year because 10 weeks was just crazy.
Generous.
I know.
Sophie, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. It is. Ross, we had a very brief chat at the Rail Innovation event regarding digital twins. Is it best that we communicate through your web form, or is irritating you by sending countless emails also productive?
So both are fairly productive. If you go through the form, it's really helpful because we ask the right questions really for us to be able to then sort of hit the ground running with a conversation, and also potentially get the right people to that conversation. I think that's so. Yeah, please do go through the form. That would be really helpful.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Anyone else have any questions or? Oh, wait, sorry, Hayden.
Just turning on my video. Yeah, thanks, Ross. I've actually just dropped you an email. I think there's significant overlap with the work that you could potentially be doing in making things available and making and being a focus for innovation with the work that RDG is doing with its rail data marketplace. So I pinged you an email because you probably want to use a single useful source of data across the industry and have a single place that you can use. and we're building that, and therefore that's going to be useful. And also, though, if some of your innovators then produce data and want to monetize that, they can bring it around as well. So I've pinged you an email about that. But overall, I think it's really, really good that you're taking things forward.
Yes, no, thanks. Yeah, be interesting. I've been speaking to various people across LNER to try and find out who's been dealing with the rail data marketplace, because I have yeah, so that'll be good. I'll follow up. Thanks, Aidan.
Your inbox.
Just for everyone's interest, we do have a session on the rail data marketplace on the 22nd of June, which is an in-person event in central London. Sign up. Right. Does anyone else have a question? Oh, we've got Lena. Lena, do you want to introduce yourself, because you missed that at the start as well?
I was going to say, yeah, because I missed the start, I just wanted to ask as well if it's possible to get just a presentation, just to get a copy of the actual slides, because I missed the beginning. But yeah, just a quick one. My name is Lena Srebrova. I'm from Digital Nodes, and we are basically virtual reality providers. But I would like to have a conversation more on the scaling side of virtual reality, because I see that you've done kind of the first steps, the proof of concept stage, but I think where we concentrate is working with bigger enterprises to get them to the distribution and kind of working at scale.
Yeah,
but it would
great.
be very useful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, training team. I think there's multiple use cases for VR, right? But our training is one that our training team are sort of running with now. So again, you may have missed the slide, but there's the handover bit that I talked about. You know, is that for us is really important, because we were able to we proved it, we proved the value, and then we've gone, right, okay, use the technology as you see fit, and they're now running with you know, developing lots of different training programs using virtual reality.
Well, thanks for that. I keep muting myself because there's some very loud people in the room next door, so that's why I'm on mute. Who is next? Mike, can I ask, since you have worked with LNER, any advice for anyone else on the call?
Oh, right. Oh, you woke me up there. Any advice? I think
also, how was the curry?
The curry was fantastic. I can recommend the ones at Netherlane Street Market. Fantastic. Very Moorish. The advice, I think, just find somebody, when you're working with LNER, find somebody who will be like your champion within the organization. So we worked with a guy called Stephen Lloyd, who is head of machine learning within Claire Cardoze's group, I think in Danny's directorate, Ross. Yeah, and right. That was good to build a long-term relationship with somebody that can help you understand and sort of navigate the landscape of a big company. So obviously, I think LNER is more than 3,000 people, something like that. It's a big corporate. So we're a startup scale up, we're a dozen people. So it's a big difference. So having somebody there who's prepared to take the time and work with you and help to sort of solve some of the problems is really good. And also I'd say be open with people, have open discussions. You're not selling all the time. I think it's about you're going to try and find if you're going to reach somewhere where you can both work together effectively, and it's a win-win situation. So I think, try not to get into sort of heavy sales mode and try and have sort of, open conversations. I don't know if that's any help at all. And the bit about the contracts is true as well. We had, I think, 40 pages under estimate. I think ours was at least 80 pages. So good luck to you for getting rid of that, Ross. That was probably the most challenging bit, was actually sorting out the contract. And definitely. So if anyone does get to that stage, I'd be happy to give you some input and suggestions as well. We actually got somebody on board to help us with that, who'd been involved in putting contracts together with big organisations in rail to help, because it was quite tough.
Great, that's very good to hear. Thank you. So I think unless anyone has any last points, I'm going to call it on time to an end. A reminder that we have an in-person networking meetup later on today, 6 o'clock in Soho. On the 8th of June, we have an Munch and Learn from the Rail Industry Association about their Innovation Navigator. And then the 22nd of June, an in-person in Central London again about the Rail Data Marketplace. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us. You have Ross's contact, so I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you again soon.
Cheers. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, everyone.